And this is NeXT Intellect Module 2, Lesson 7, AI for Daily Productivity. Using AI tools to complete everyday work tasks. Pathway Overview. This lesson teaches beginners how to use AI tools to automate and simplify everyday work tasks across admin, customer support, and marketing roles. Students will learn practical techniques for using AI to save time, manage tasks more efficiently, and produce better quality work. Through hands-on exercises, you will discover how AI can handle routine activities such as scheduling, email drafting, and content creation, so ultimately you could focus on more meaningful work. The workforce targets to be able to identify 3 real-world work tasks in your field that AI can help complete faster and better. Write clear, specific prompts that tell an AI tool exactly what you need. Use AI to draft, edit, and organize common workplace documents. Apply AI to customer service and marketing scenarios to improve response quality. Evaluate AI output and know when to revise or use human judgment. Understand the ethical boundaries and limitations of AI in professional settings, and create a personal productivity workflow. Key vocabulary: productivity, automation, task management, prompt, output, workflow, efficiency, iteration, context, and Gen AI. So we've discussed different tasks that we do repeatedly between work and personal life. So hopefully we've already thought of some of how long it took before, and then maybe using an AI tool and coming up with a way to complete that task more quickly if there's any part of it that could be automated. Now, the thing is, going into 2, if you did use an AI tool to help you do a task and then it freed up time, just to think what could you do with the extra time. So like the previous slide mentioned, opening up space for more meaningful work. So using your creativity, being able to, at times, maybe you're able to help out a coworker during that time with the task that they're on, or being able to give those updates to management that you finish something ahead of time. Have you ever used a tool that learned from your preferences or behavior to make suggestions? Well, we have talked about definitely the music and video suggestion software, whether it's for a TV subscription thing or YouTube for the videos you watch, or Spotify and the music that's recommended, everything. So keeping up with your preferences, what you like, what you skip. Definitely for shopping and stuff. So like Amazon, noticing the what type of items you buy in the past and being able to sometimes offer things to you that you didn't think were related. If you look at the shoppers, you frequently buy these items together. Sometimes you might see something that doesn't seem to be directly related, but they notice that there was a connection between them, and then were able to market it, and somebody did buy item A and item B. And what worries do you have about using AI to help with work, and what questions do you want answered? One of the worries we talked about would be making sure you follow your company policy if you're working for somebody when it comes to if they have an AI policy, so you stay within its boundaries and not to get into trouble. And then with your own work, there might be some amount of where you're wanting to keep something more led by you, and if it's something you are reluctant to let AI work with, like me using my writing, which is my own, and not using AI, and I use it for other things, just because it's kind of like Batman when he talks about he doesn't want to cross the line of like taking a life, like taking the Joker's life. So I mean, you set certain boundaries of what you want to use AI for, because kind of once you cross a boundary, you're probably using it for that task moving forward. So there's certain things I like to keep where they're just for Matt to do. and certain things that Matt and AI could work on. So we're looking into AI tools that can help us work faster and smarter on everyday tasks. We'll explore real world examples of the types of different work. And by the end of the lesson, you should have hands on experience using AI to draft emails, organize schedules, respond to customers, and create content. You'll also understand when to trust AI output and when to apply your own human judgment. So productivity, what is it and why AI matters? Well, productivity means getting more done in less time without sacrificing quality. So we all go through our little productive burst in a day where you probably get more done compared to the rest of the day. But hopefully, we're never sacrificing quality for getting more work done. So most professionals spend hours on routine tasks like answering emails, scheduling meetings, organizing files, or writing initial drafts. So if we could have AI handle these, notice they're all like repetitive activities that someone's probably going to do a couple times throughout the day, such as their answering and reading and replying to emails in like the morning, afternoon, and probably the end of the day. And each of those are going to lead to having to write drafts in response. They're going to have documentation for the day. Scheduled meetings could come from any of those email sessions, so all of these can be sporadic throughout, and also could come up last minute, and you have a short notice too of when's the best time to say host a meeting that maybe needs to be the next day for a large group of people. So if you could get AI to help you out with these tasks, ultimately freeing up your focus to be able to open up for creativity and more strategic work. And we know that's the human element there, because we could argue that AI is not really, even when things seem creative, the same way as when it seems intelligent, that it still is artificial. So maybe we say artificial creativity. And the trend of workplaces, we said, we noticed that a lot of companies are embracing at least knowing that somebody being familiar with AI and at least willing to use it based on their AI policy, that it could save time and save the money for the company. And so that is ultimately leading future hiring groups wanting a AI at least enabled or AI savvy workforce coming in. And so it's definitely going to be beneficial to put on things like your resume and the type of tools you work with and be able to put metrics of if you were able to use an AI tool to save time in completing a task and increasing your outputs. Three work roles that benefit from AI. We have admin professionals. Maybe they're using it to manage a calendar, send reminders, draft formal letters, and organize information. Customer support teams use AI to suggest quick responses, categorize incoming messages, and provide consistent answers to common questions. Marketing professionals use AI to write social media posts, generate email campaigns, and analyze customer feedback and brainstorm content ideas. So all these rules can use AI differently, but the core principle remains the same. Let AI handle the routine work so humans can handle the more complex work and be able to use their human judgment when it comes to making decisions. Now, how we ultimately get the work done using AI is by giving our prompts, and we've learned to give good, detailed prompts. The more specific, the better. So, an AI tool doesn't read our mind, it only knows what we tell it. So, the more clear, more detailed the prompt, the better the output. So, we go back to that garbage in data is garbage out data. The quality is definitely important. So instead of a vague prompt like write an email, we see an example of a much more specific prompt, um, is going to lead to something more along the lines of what you're needing in that moment. And note too, giving it context in situations, especially if you've used the tool for the first time, it's not starting out with any background knowledge about your role, your company, what specific situation that you're doing in that moment for work. Now, if it's Gemini chat, one you've been using and you've been doing chats with your work and it is aware of you, then it does have that knowledge what your company does, and you could update it if anything changes at point. So, hey, my role has changed, or and now this is what my work duties are. Okay, or if your company's mission is modified, anything like that. If your company's acquired by another company, big things to be updated in there. So some common AI tools for everyday type of work. So we've all been using chat as probably our main one for use with the most across the board using for the class, and everybody's familiar with it. So it's kind of a go-to general purpose AI that we could do things for drafting text. It could do that very well, answering questions and help brainstorm ideas. Doesn't mean that it can't do other things. It could also generate images. It could create charts and things for you. Infographics. You might find a tool that does some of those things better. Microsoft Copilot we saw is integrated with the whole Microsoft package, and so works well with Microsoft Word, or thinking Outlook if that's what your organization uses for emails. So that's probably going to be better in that context. While if you're using Google's suite of services with Gmail and Google Docs and Google Drive, might be where you have all your folders in. Gemini will be able to work with them flawlessly. And some other examples for that are more specialized for like marketing and content creation are Jasper and Copy.ai. Then for meeting times and managing schedules, we have Calendly. We see looks kind of like Calendar and Motion. Most of these tools are free or affordable, and many have training videos built in. And we said just treat it like a sandbox on starting with the tool. It's probably better to try out just two or three that you're getting more comfortable with rather than trying out like 20 plus ones and barely putting any time in each one. So you want to make it the most of your while incorporating them. And so if you could get just a handful of tools down where you know where they're best suited for a certain task, how to use them, how to navigate the interface and everything, then you'll be much better equipped of, okay, this tool is for this tool is usually what I go to for this, and it'll be easier in building out your workflows. Prompt engineering is what we've been working on. If you haven't referred to as engineering for, it's just like an engineer, being able to uh, build something like they're building a tower or a bridge or something. So it's you're constructing something, but it's meaningful, not thrown together. Just like they would have plans to follow and have to make sure that everything's up to code. Our prompts need to take in that mindset of it's not thrown together, but thoughtfully engineered or thoughtfully crafted. Okay, so you're writing a prompt in the way that's going to get you the best output. The formula is quite simple. It's giving it specificity, giving it context, and to state what our goal is clearly. So we get an example for customer service. Help me with customer service would be way too vague. How about let it know your role? I manage social media for a fitness brand, and maybe they give a company name. A customer complained, so the context that our app crashed during their workout. Draft a response that apologizes, offers a solution, and encourages them to try again. Okay. You would include the tone, audience, length, and format. If the first output is not quite right, then you revise your prompt and try again. Remember, that's iterating through the process. So you might go through that two or three times to get the output that you're looking for. the more practice you have with giving your detailed prompts, the closer you're getting to probably minimizing that time for iterations and trying again. You're probably giving a prompt and having your output be suitable the first time, or maybe just with minor tweaks. Because the whole goal is for it to, save you time in some of these tasks to free up and to increase your output. So you don't want to have to be spending more time modifying your prompts than it would have taken you to do the task in the first place. So always keep up with how long the task normally took you before using AI and after, and make sure that you're using it to actually serve you rather than hinder you. For admin tasks for a specific role, they spend a lot of time on emails, reading and writing emails, scheduling meetings, and documentation. Using AI to draft meeting invitations, say reminder messages or status updates quickly would be beneficial. I could ask an AI tool to reorganize scattered notes into a clean summary or action plan. Use AI to generate templates from common emails so you can customize and send them in seconds instead of minutes. A hospital admin might prompt create a template email for all of the staff whose recertification is due in 60 days. Include the deadline, where to submit, and who to contact for help. And then they would have that one for recurring whenever it needs to be sent out, to have the idea of templates that you could reuse. Customer support, they receive hundreds of similar questions every day. So AI can suggest personalized responses to those common questions, can make sure it's following company policies and sticking to your brand voice. So instead of writing each response from scratch, you review those AI suggestions, okay, saving hopefully multiple minutes for each reply, or a couple minutes here and there definitely adds up, okay. A support representative might paste a customer support into an AI tool and say, suggest a response that acknowledges the issue, takes responsibility, offers a specific fix, and asks how we can earn back trust. Then you would just edit the suggestion it gives for accuracy and tone before sending it. So notice we're still putting our human eyes on it and not assuming that everything is going to be perfect. This keeps quality high while reducing time pressure. AI for marketing and content. Marketers use AI to generate social media post ideas, write email subject lines, draft product descriptions, and brainstorm campaign themes. A marketing assistant might prompt, write 5 tweet ideas for our sustainable fashion brand announcing a new collection made from recycled materials. Make them engaging, include one emoji, and highlight its environmental impact. Then they would review the suggestions, pick amongst their favorites, edit if needed, and note AI is fastest at generating ideas in the first drafts, while the human marketer is better at the strategy, checking that the brand voice is on point, knowing what actually resonates with their audience. Okay. The AI note is with your audience is seeing patterns, right? And making predictions about what they might want, making assumptions all based on math. So just like the art intelligence is artificial, it's like even when it seems to be understanding of something like your company's goals or your specific audience, doesn't mean that it actually understands, and doesn't mean the sense of how we understand an audience, okay, and what would resonate with them. So the human element is very important in this context as well. So note the best is when we're hand in hand. The best results are when we're having AI and its speed, okay, of data calculation and computation mixed with human judgment. Now, for safety, ethics, and knowing your limits on working with AI, just always review the output, okay? Even if it's for just a personal project you're doing, if you're going to share it on Facebook, even an image you create, okay, with the Gen AI tool, okay, if it's public, it's out there, and even if you delete it, it can exist somewhere out there on the internet. Someone could have saved it, and it might not have been intentional for something that could have been created that could offend somebody or cause harm, go against your company policy, maybe invade somebody's privacy. So there's a lot of issues that could come up of creating something that just putting your eyes on it for just a few moments can keep you safe from that. So check it, especially if it's used for work and then if it's shared publicly. Note that AI can make mistakes. It might not have created something that sounds offensive. It might just be that the say the text it generated might not seem to have any heart to it, okay, or it might sound robotic, or it might produce information that is not accurate. So that can happen a lot. And then if it's telling you that it's accurate when it's not, that falls under the definition of the hallucination. So it could be telling you 100% this is true when it's not. Never use AI to make decisions that affect someone's job, safety, or privacy without human review. You never know when bias might, remember, it could come in later into the system, even after the initial training. So it could be from later data that comes in, and you wouldn't want AI to make a preference over one candidate based on something like their ethnic background or based on the zip code that they live in. And so you have to be um, diligent in making sure that the high stakes situations that human review still of the utmost importance. How's it learn what? Oh, so it's going to have all the written text, on different cultures before from like history. So say it's Southern culture, right? And then it knows that there's things like the potlucks at funerals and stuff. It knows the Bible Belt. It knows that religion and Christian religion's probably bigger than some other areas. Four-wheeler riding, playing in the dirt and things like that. All the things that people probably said in oral traditions that were written at places has that. But then that's going to lead it just to synthesize all that data. So then that's why if you got it to create an image with the Gen AI tool of like a Southern boy, right? Okay, look, it's one thing, but then it might just be an amalgamation of somebody at a potluck with four wheelers driving around, somebody's laying in a casket, then there might be a preacher behind a pulpit and the thing, and it might just be this amalgamation of things going on just because it has all of that to put into it. Now, when we train it and tell it things like when it starts trying to talk like you because it knows you're in Mississippi, that's when we could say, actually, I didn't want you to use some of these Southern sayings, because that's when it's trying to create something that it thinks you would speak like to make it seem more human or more personalized. And you could let it know in the context of like for professional work, if you're wanting to not be culture based, like, oh, I don't want it to stand out and sound like somebody from Mississippi. Um, but yeah, so that feedback that you give it, hopefully it's been trained that some of the Southern things, I mean, we have things that it needs to know are tied to the South for history, like slavery, but it needs to know that that would be something that out of context, you wouldn't want it to generate an image that would be offensive or something. It needs to be in that historical context. We also have like the Confederate flag and stuff. We probably don't want that popping up in images generated just because we're talking about the South. So hopefully it's trained right on there's certain things and that's a very large culture. So how's it learn about I mean, we have culture of different ethnic groups. You have cultures of religious sects and culture down to like teens, and that changes from the areas you're in. So it's written text. It is what's in the people sharing like social media and everything that's been trained on to know like what are sayings of the day. colloquialisms that people would say, and like, oh, what was like 90s culture, like 80s culture. And so it's going to definitely have all that from articles, novels of the day, journals. So I imagine what it knows on 80s culture, right? It's going to be an amalgamation of big hair, right? And hairspray and stuff, the glam rock and metal, and then you're gonna have the 80s horror slasher films. Then yeah, it's just going to be all those type of things that usually kind of come to your head because it's seen those type of images fed to it, the movie titles, events that happened around that time. Yeah, historical events. So you're gonna have the Berlin Wall coming down in '89, I think. You have the Cold War, things like that. Ronald Reagan, and just the amalgamation of all those things, and without actually understanding it. So then that's why it might mix the things together. If you wanted to write you a story where you're based in the 80s, I wouldn't be surprised, if it mentions a couple of those things, like maybe Reagan's the president at the time. Right. Yeah, it would just be based on if it certain things might be flagged like sensitive or whatever. So it might give you who knows if it would give you a heads up that it would be. If you asked for it, it's probably like, okay, you're not saying that it's going to offend you to see an image of it, right? That's feedback that you could give it back if it ever created an image and it was something that even if it was historical, but made you uncomfortable, I'd let it know that, and then hopefully that's going to be enough for even its generations for you, not to create and show you that image. We could test that out with the creating an image to represent like the 1980s in the U.S. to see to change it. This will be in Gemini to show an example of, let's see what it actually us. We could see what data it has been trained on and what it's aware of and learned about the 80s. It should be evident. Create an image that represents the 1980s in the US. Photo realistic. Probably don't want to give it too much detail because I'm wanting to actually see what it thinks of about this period of time. But this is good to do with any of our human judgment on this, on when we're getting it to create something and trying to see what data it's using, what does it think of a situation, and then look in there to see if anything might be if there's something for bias, or not. Okay, of course, all our marketing of companies thing and ads that have been around, the neon colors, Ghostbusters, Back to the Future coming out, The Breakfast Club. So it's funny that we just see people walking on the streets, cars, and like materialism, shopping, AI imperfections in it. So I don't know what that movie would be. That looks like it's a mixture of The Breakfast Club and almost like nuggets, and maybe because of McDonald's and chicken nuggets. We have McDonald's. McDonald's doesn't actually say Golden Arches, does it? It just is the Golden Arch. So that's a imperfection. Uh, Big Mac is from Burger King. So see, it's mixing together these fast food places. Looks like a parking type sign, even though it doesn't say that, or either the sign for a hotel. Okay. We look for things if we wanted to generate an image and use it for a purpose, and we're looking for bias. Did it correct? We have big hair and everything, but do we only have like white people here? So don't see, is it representing a group that's actually in a certain area? So I mean, you can't tell in the back, but right here we have men and women, but they're all white right there. And over here, looks like there might be a black person there. That might be. And then we don't know beyond then. So there's definitely not diversity right in our image here. So those are types of things that we could go in and look at and consider. Yeah, if you want to generate an image too that was actually appropriate of a place and of a time, that's data you could give in that context. Because sure, there's going to be certain places that might have only been made up of a certain group of people. It might have been majority white and black, might have been the second largest group, and then maybe Hispanics the third, and that's what you want to see represented. Is that the that's the link for the IBM? Okay, I'll copy that after the stream to put in. Okay, but no, that was a good question in getting to test that out. So we saw there's some bias just in that image created. There wasn't anything that was inappropriate meaning to be, but the fact that we didn't have representation of groups, then yeah, it might be offensive to somebody just for that, but it wasn't like blatantly inappropriate. We do have a lot of misinformation of the companies, and their logos might not have been right. Um, we also have to look at the following rules, policies of when it comes to those companies and stuff. If it's generating an image, if you're just using it for fun and sharing it on Facebook, shouldn't be a problem. But if you're wanting to create something for like a marketing campaign, you can't just be using other people's right their logos and things like that. So you'd have to say what are you allowed to have in this image that's generated, so you don't get like in trouble with McDonald's. So just asking yourself, um, are you breaking anything for workplace policy when it comes to AI? We've mentioned before the importance of not putting in confidential company information into a public AI tool. If your company's using their own data and it's like high stakes data thing, they probably have vetted tools that they're using specifically for it and certain protocols for you to follow. Because we know just putting something in a public tool that we're using like Gemini or Chat, you putting in company details, something like that, the chance of it could be leaked is possible. And so we definitely want to keep our private information private. Ask yourself before using AI, say if it generated text. Okay, so like what was in the text of a poem or song lyric for the situation? Is it appropriate? Is the information private? It didn't like put like your address in it because it knows it for some reason. And could this harm someone if it is wrong? A lot of times you have those disclaimers in the AI anyway, right? If it's not a doctor when it comes to medical advice and things like that. And so, yeah, we talked about before, you could use it and give symptoms and it could be pretty accurate on letting you know based on, like you mentioned before, it has these public healthcare journals and could potentially have way more knowledge in a subject than even the human doctor could have because they're still limited on the time of research they got to put in and staying current with current uh trends, health, new diseases and viruses. So definitely for just like getting maybe a better idea of something even before going in, but knowing you probably aren't wanting to let it ultimately have the say so and like say, oh, it diagnosed me with something, and then like I'm just going to go buy like over counter medicine for like this. Okay, depends on if it was a serious thing or not. If it wasn't life threatening, and you're just wanting to see if you think it's a cold or not, and if it's worth going to the doctor or not, because you're gonna have to just take over the counter medicine and just treating the symptoms. But it's gonna give those types of disclaimers, and these AI tools are also going to be telling you that it's AI, that it's not. perfect to check for imperfections and everything. So I just go back to it depends on how high stakes the situation is. If it affects somebody's livelihood, like their job or their health, okay, or above their safety or privacy, definitely human reviews needed, and definitely AI might not need to be used for every single thing. So we're ultimately responsible as the human for making the final decisions and checking the accuracy. So as you're using the tools, mention not using it for every single thing at once. It's better to be mindful of what task you want to work at than maybe sticking with a few tools at a time. So it's suggesting like the tool you're using for a single task, maybe 2 weeks with that tool. Maybe do a simple A/B test where you test with one tool for a while and then the second one and compare them to see which one gives better results. Okay. You're going to become more comfortable with that tool too and the type of results that you get. So then that way you could be confident in it and show a manager, supervisor, whatever, things like the savings of time that you had with the task. When it comes down to minutes, maybe your output went up if it's like if you're having to write so many words or generate images and video for like a marketing campaign. And then if it's something that's continuing to go well and would work for other members on a team, it might be something that the company embraces and can reuse templates and things like that. And continuing to do that with your tasks each week and the tools you use is going to help you in the steps of building out your like daily workflows and which tools that you use. Or remember, you could always have output from one tool become input for another tool. So for the guided build, probably use Gemini since that was the one that not as much maybe as chat for our group that we have, and that we could definitely use it for free. We have a scenario here. A customer ordered a product online, but it arrived 3 days late. They are frustrated and considered returning it. You need to respond professionally and win back their trust. Okay. It gives us the specific prompt to put in. I work in customer service, so the context of what your role is for an online retailer. A customer is unhappy because their order arrived 3 days late. They are considering returning it. Write a short email that apologizes for the delay. So the apology explains why delays can happen sometimes, or maybe if there was a specific reason for that scenario. Offer them something like a 10% discount on their next purchase as in addition to the apology and thank them for their patience. And we have a limit of length of keeping it to 3 sentences. Okay. So you'll follow along doing the same thing there that we will just copy that from. I'm going to copy it from our slide here. Make sure I get the whole thing. I think I closed out of Gemini. Okay, and I just paste it into, and we're not getting it to generate an image right now, so I don't have to worry about even changing any of those. And I'll just hit submit. Okay, super fast. Dear customer. So we probably have a name that we'd be able to put there based on it. So then that way, if we're using a first name, we're probably also referencing thing like their order number and things like that. Please accept our sincere apology. So it gave the apology for the 3 day and acknowledge what the problem was. Okay. Unexpected shipping errors can occur due to high volumes. We completely, so empathizing with them, understand your frustration, and truly appreciate your patience. To help make things right, we would love to offer you a 10% discount on your next purchase. We would specify in our prompt if we actually had a code we wanted it to use, because that code would definitely need to work. And hope we could earn back your trust. Warm regards. Okay, you'd have your name. You'd either have this template now to put in your details, or you could have given that in the prompt. and the company. That might be if you don't want to put the company name right in the AI public tool and just keep it where it's vague like this, then you're just going in and plugging in those details there. Okay, sound professional, nice short length. So then if we want to improve it, we could say something like if we were happy with it, that is good, but make it warmer or maybe more personal. Add their name if possible. I would probably add their name using it as a template in your own email, right? Instead of putting it in your AI tool, especially if you're putting their full name, just so we're there's no reason that we need to put it in the AI tool. Do we need to adjust the length any? And then submit that second prompt and see is the output usable. Okay. It definitely would have saved us time than manually writing out thinking exactly what we're going to tell the person. That generated in like 2 seconds about popping up. So I would have still been thinking what all needed to be typed out. If yes, move to step 4. If no, revise your prompt and try again. Okay. We would save the best version of the output as a template in a document folder, and we can name it customer apology email template. So we could leave those brackets for things like for their name, specific things of the problem, like if it was a certain day delay. And then that way you could reuse this for multiple people having multiple customer apologies. And then it's showing you that could connect to other types of templates. If you do have work that leads to customers, for if there's like customer apology, you would have that template, or you would apply that to create a template that's fitting for your work using a scenario of what you need to email somebody. Oops, that was I skipped too far forward. Write your prompt. There we go. There, so for the lab after the guided lab, so you'll identify one task that you do at least twice per week that feels repetitive or time consuming. Open your chosen AI tool so you get to pick and write a detailed prompt that describes the task. Include who it is for, what the outcome is that you want, what tone to use, and how long it should be. And then, kind of like we did in the guided build, that's when you're going to be looking at how many times you need to reiterate to refine it and make it better when it comes to the output. You're going to be saving that template that gives you the best output for that situation that you could reuse for similar situations. And ultimately, you're keeping all your templates saved together that are for a specific job that you're working, or if you have templates that you want to keep together in a folder for personal life when it comes to responding to family and friends, and have like a work one. If you have different jobs, you might have templates that fit for one job and then templates that fit for another job. So you complete that lab, that will lead you to having everything for your portfolio artifact. See common problems and their solutions. Be sure to read the best practices for each of our lessons. For the reflection journal, some of these we've discussed in previous and talking questions brought up. So describe the one task you chose to automate using AI. So what you do in your lab, that'll be what you will respond to in your writing. So we won't discuss that yet. You've already been writing detailed prompts, getting better at it though with your prompt engineering. Number 3, you probably know it's probably faster at generating than your brainstorming writing in the first place. You might notice things like missing details in the generator response because maybe you didn't give it all the context. Note how much you need to edit something afterwards if it's a lot less than what it generated than what if you were typing out something by hand or writing in like a notebook. Then look to see how using the templates you create, and try to use them as often that they apply. So if it is something that you could use every day for workday for a month, how did it change your workday? How much extra time was saved? What did you do with the extra time? Did it increase your job satisfaction? And then what concern do you have still about using AI in your workplace? That would always be to, if you don't already have a policy to bring up with, if you're not your own boss and you're not freelance, to talk to a supervisor about it, to say if you do think it could benefit your work, to see do they need to come up with some policies and what they allow. And then it might just be a matter of being transparent and saying when you use an AI tool for something. That completes Module 2, Lesson 7.